ties into who we are and how we work and how our minds work. A lot of it can be based on theories and techniques and how we think the mind works. And what the three principles do really is point towards a universal constant. And when I say universal constant, does anybody know what the hell I'm talking about? No. That's good. Well, to take it into the physical world, a physical universal constant would be gravity, meaning that if I drop this, not only will it smash, but Peter will get angry with me because we probably won't actually, but he's a head teacher here.
That's not causal, is it?
No. No, that's right. So gravity just works. It's like a universal constant. And not only does it work on Earth, it works on Jupiter and Neptune, and it works on other galaxies as well. It's just like an undercurrent of the nature of how things work. Are you kind of with me? Mm-hmm. Like aeronautics is based on the principles of lift and thrust. And so once they know the principles how it works, they can create better shaped wings and aerodynamics for planes to be more efficient. You kind of with me? Mm. And so in the physical world, you have these universal constants like gravity and aerodynamics and different things. Now, if we take that into the psychological world, these are universal constants in the psychological world. So they're not based on like a good idea or a theory or something that works sometimes. It's not limited to a certain type of person or certain field. Basically, if you're human and you think, then it kind of applies to you and applies to us. And that's what I loved about it. It's like an equalizer. It applies to everybody the same because we all think.
I think what's so great about this understanding as well is it does go across the board. It's how we all work. It's not a personal thing. It's this impersonal understanding. It's this impersonal way of explaining our nature.
What we're pointing towards is our innate or natural capacity that as human beings we just think. We create our life via a thought construction. Have you ever been by the seaside and you've watched the waves just kind of do what they do, kind of move and form ripples and waves and come in and draw out? Well, what we can see is the behaviour of the water on top of the water. You can't see the currents underneath the water that are creating the behaviour on top of the water. We can only see what we can see. What's happening with the water is that there's these forces, these invisible forces that we can't see, that's creating what we can see. And what we're pointing towards really is the invisible forces behind how we operate as human beings, behind how we operate psychologically, behind how our mind works to create our experience of life. But the power of this is absolutely enormous because we're not looking to the surface of the water. We're understanding the currents that create the surface of the water. And because it's invisible, it's non-tangible. And because it's non-tangible, you're not going to get this with your head. It's not going to make any sense with your head. You're going to start getting a feeling within your own heart, within your own being. And that's how things change. I don't know if you've ever seen like a deck of cards. I used to do this when I was a kid. It was great fun actually. But I'll like create all these decks of cards and put one on top and then do like another deck, and before long you've got this big pyramid. Have you seen that? What we're endeavouring to do is we're not kind of looking towards like the top cards or the second or third. We're not pointing towards the cards. The cards are analogies for your limiting beliefs, your productive beliefs, your positivity, your negativity, your preferences, your whole psychological makeup. Imagine that is the cards. Now, we're not really looking at that. What we're looking at is what everything is resting on, the table or the ground that all the cards are resting on. we're pointing towards that and not the cards. Now, when you see what the entire thing is resting on, I can honestly say you have true psychological freedom, because all you need to do is wobble the table a bit and then the whole thing falls down.
What the principles are trying to point towards, they're just words trying to point us in a direction of how we function as human beings, and we kind of put words and labels around it to try and help people come to their own conclusion of what that means for them and what does thought mean for them. And I think I never really used to think of unconscious and emotions. I didn't used to think of emotions as being thought created. I saw them as something separate. So then thought became bigger for me, because okay, that encompasses feelings and emotions, and then actually the fact that there's something going on within me that's making my heart beat and, you know, doing stuff with my blood sugar levels. To me now, thought is involved in that. So thought is just kind of, again, we don't know. It's expansive. We're trying to pin it down, but it is just so huge. And I think Sid used to talk about the three principles, and then he'd say, but there is only one. So we'd be like, okay, so we talk about it in terms of three principles, so this power of thought and this power of being conscious, and then the power of mind to animate that.
This is an analogy. You know, you've got water, and it's water and it moves around like the nature of water does. Now, if you freeze the water, it becomes solid. So it doesn't move around anymore, and you can turn it upside down, it's kind of the same. But then if you boil the water, it turns into steam, so you can't see it. The principles are like that. The principles are one thing, but it looks like three. It looks like mind, conscious and thought. Like it looks like water, ice and steam. It's three visions of the same thing. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. So with water, it's fluid. With ice, it's solid. And with steam, it's kind of formless. It kind of just floats around. But it's still water, just in different states. It's still water in different states. Hands up, who likes that? 2, 3, kind of. Mostly people don't, but okay.
I'm being followed by a moon shadow.
Hands up, who likes that? So that's most people, but there's about 3 people who don't. Hands up, who likes that? Yes, 2, 3. Now, that's just an example, because if life worked whereby the situation, the person, the experience, what created our feeling, logically you think that same stimulus would elect the same response in everybody. If it worked that way, that's what would happen. But really saying it doesn't work that way, what happens is our thinking creates an experience from out there. It doesn't really work any other way. That's the only way it works, because if it didn't work like that, all of you would elect the same response to the same music. You see what I mean? So our entire experience of everything, no exception, is only ever created by our thinking of that thing.
I'm always feeling my thinking, and therefore everyone else is always feeling their thinking. And it just seems to, I don't know, I can be, in any moment, I can be getting caught up in my thinking, and then suddenly it'll hit me. I'm thinking the outside world is having an impact on me. I think that person or the event is making me feel like this. And then I'm like, wow, this illusion that is created with these principles is so real that even though I've been around this a long time, I'm still going to get caught up in it again and again and again. But what's happened recently is I'm just catching myself so quickly, like, wow, I'm doing it again. I've forgotten, and it looks like the outside world is making me feel something. Because I think you ask most people and they will say, yeah, what I think I feel, yeah. But then they're still getting massively caught up or blaming other people. But it's the freedom of this is that you realise you are always, every single moment, going to be experiencing something from within. Therefore, other people aren't to blame. There isn't anything to do in the outside world for you to feel better. And then understanding that the nature of thought itself is that it is impermanent. It flows. It can't stay fixed in our mind. You can't have one thought and just think that and never think anything else. The nature of it is it passes through. So with these kind of realizations, it's allowing the system of how we all operate to just start operating without so many kind of spanners in the works. Because I used to then try and jump onto thinking and think, I shouldn't think that. Well, I understand something about the principle, so I shouldn't feel bad because I know it's just thought. But it doesn't work like that. We can't intellectually work our way out of a thought-created feeling by putting more thought on it. So it's kind of unravelling, like thought and the reality that I create is kind of unravelled, and then it kind of recreates. And it is like a moment-to-moment thing, so...
Because the Three Principles movie site, it's taken like a year web design to get the new site up. And the web designer promised it would be done in 3 months completely and all this stuff. And so my perception was that the web designer was the cause of my stress about the movie site, because I emailed all my subscribers and said, well, the new movie site, the online training is going to be up, and then it wasn't, and then he said it was, and then it wasn't. So my experience was that the cause of my distress is my web designer, because if he would fulfil his part of the bargain, then I wouldn't get stressed. So that's what it looks like. But just because something looks like that doesn't mean say it works like that. Yeah. Like if you look up into the sky, it looks like the sun is moving around the earth. That's why, hundreds of years ago they thought that earth was stationary and the sun just went round it, because it made common sense, so that's what happened. But we have to prove that just because something looks like it doesn't necessarily work like that. Like, if you put a straight stick in water, it looks bent, but it's not. It just looks like it. And with our psychological world, just because it looks like it's the person or the situation causing your discomfort, it doesn't really mean that. It just looks like that. And so I think what I realised with my web designer is that, oh my God, I'm doing it again. I'm blaming something outside of myself for my stressed thinking.
Relaxing into the idea that there is a system operating within us. It's always working. It's always working perfectly, so whatever we think will look real to us. And just knowing that, it's a relief. I haven't got to do this. I haven't got to try and do the principles. I haven't got to try and do them better or worse, or I haven't got to try and change them. They are always operating within us. So with that understanding, I have a lot less thinking on my mind, and I have more creative potential for ideas and the things that we're doing with work, and I just worry less about what's on my mind. And I was speaking to someone on Skype the other day, and she was saying, well, when I get these principles, then I won't have that kind of thinking anymore. I said, oh no, I still have some of the very same thinking I had before the principles. So for me, my demons were kind of to do with food and eating, and it's like, oh no, I still get some of that thinking. I can still go up 3 dress sizes after having an Indian takeaway. Like, I can look in the mirror, I look different, and I'm in my head about it, but thought doesn't have the same weight as it used to. I used to think because I thought something, it was so. So now it's just, I don't know, it's almost watching my thoughts and watching myself in and out of different situations, but without the same heavy feeling. So with it is kind of a freedom of of just living in the experience of the principles. And that is just, like, I feel so grateful to have come across this when I did, because as a teenager my world was fixed. I was a shy person, I had eating disorders, I had a lot of ideas about what was possible for me. But this understanding really does, as Rudy said earlier, it levels the playing field. Like, anything becomes possible. Like, I know I've had moments with this understanding where I've just looked back at my life and it almost neutralises it. All the kind of grudges or bad feeling or upset or any of those kind of things, it kind of neutralised it, because I thought, if I'm always doing, you know, I'm always having the principles operating within me, I'm always feeling my thinking, and so's that other person, then there isn't any blame in that, because we cannot do better than what we're thinking in the moment. It's just not possible for us, unless we catch ourselves and jump out of it. But we can't make that happen. We can't make ourselves suddenly go, oh, it's just thought, I'm really not going to be cross about that. Like, trying to make yourself not cross when you're feeling cross is almost impossible. And like, sometimes you do just catch yourself and it's gone, but...
It's a bit like, have you ever been to the circus and you've seen that guy who kind of puts his back on that bed of nails, and then someone stands on top of him, and then someone stands on top of them, and then you've got these guys on one another's shoulders, and basically more pressure pushing down on the nails. I think my essence was being pushed down with thinking, and more painful. And fundamentally what was happening, if I wasn't feeling good, I was putting so much more thinking on not feeling good that I felt even worse. And what happens now is, when I'm not feeling very good, I'm not feeling very good, full stop. Why am I feeling not very good? I don't care.
Because normally when we're feeling good, we don't try and work out why. We're just feeling good and getting on with life. It's only when we're feeling bad that we try and work it out, and it's like, well, it's the same reason that we feel good. It's because we're thinking that way, and that's why we're feeling it. Like the end. And
yeah, it is like the end. I'm not feeling good at the end. I'm feeling good at the end. Thought the end. It's just, what happens is, you can kind of be in your head, or you can be in life. And when you're in your head, you're still in life, you're still walking along, and it's not as if you disappear or anything. You're still in life, but you're in your head, so you're not really there.
It's like, there's a movie, I can't remember what it's called, but it's got Will Ferrell in it, and it's almost like they've gone into a book. So he's a character in a book, so he's got a constant commentary about what he's doing. And I said to Rudy recently that I realised my commentary's gone. Because even just going to the supermarket, I was kind of a commentary in my head about what I was wearing, what I was looking at. Like, I was so obsessed with myself and this constant voice. And I'm doing, what if I did that? And if I did that, then what did they think? And I'd be in a conversation, thinking, well, I could ask them that, but then they might think I mean that. And like, that commentary seems to have dulled down a little bit. And when I watched that movie, it just made me laugh. I was like, yeah, that's how I used to live. Like, it's like being on a stage all of the time. I'm walking around thinking that I was being watched, and it was me watching myself and kind of editing myself. And that's got less and less and less, which is wonderful, because, you know, it takes up a lot of energy to be constantly monitoring what you're doing and what you're saying. It's exhausting. And it gets in the way of just doing.
And I think what we've really seen is that when people have less on their mind, they're so much more productive and creative thinking. They've got so much extra resources for fresh thought. Because I thought of an analogy the other day that if you've got like a puzzle in front of you, like a jigsaw, and you've kind of made most of it, you've maybe made the edges, and there's a bit in the middle that you can't find the piece to go in the middle. I don't know if you can picture that or get a feel for that. But sometimes we have issues in our lives and there's like a piece missing, and you kind of think, well, how do I feel that? What does it look like? You know, that doesn't make any sense. And the more stressed and focused on it, meaning that the more we have on our mind about it, we focus in on just the missing piece, okay? Now, and that's the issue. Say the missing piece is the issue, be it finances or relationship or something you're struggling with, whatever makes sense for you in this analogy. Now, when you've got less on your mind, your natural, innate capacity is to sit back and your awareness broadens. It's like you're taking the blinkers off the horse so its peripheral vision goes out. And then you see the piece just over there and you can put it in. Meaning that when you're so focused on something, you can't really see it. But when you kind of let it go, your vision becomes broader and you can actually see the bit of the puzzle to put in. Does that make sense? And again, this isn't like okay, so if I can't work something out, I should relax and I should not think about it. It's literally just what happens. It's just the nature of our minds. It's like a tap that you turn, there's like a drip coming out. You're not going to be very productive. Kind of wait till it's flowing a bit more. And that's just like a practical example. Does that make sense at all? Have people seen if they hold a crystal up to the sun, it can the photons of light come into the crystal and it comes out like a rainbow?
Yeah.
Have you seen that? Well, if you imagine the photons of light before hitting the crystal is basically the pure, formless energy of life that creates all things. It's just like a neutral energy behind things that animates. Okay. Imagine that's like the white light coming in. Now thought is kind of like the crystal that bends that light and makes it look like the colours. Now, when you see that you're the one creating the colours, you start to see, you point back more towards the source, the white neutral energy. You start seeing that more than the after effects of the colours. Well, when you have less on your mind, you're naturally seeing life clearer. And to put a label on it, it's a feeling of love. When you're seeing clearly, you're in love. Not personally, but impersonally. Because you have to go beyond the word love. What I'm really talking about is a spiritual remembering of who we really are. Waking up from the amnesia of the personal mind to fall into the spiritual divine mind. And how that plays out on a practical level is you're more present because you're in presence. And I don't want that to sound too esoteric or worry, because you really have to listen beyond my words here, and if you don't like a word or what I'm saying, just work out in your own mind as to what I mean by that. But from a practical level, you're just seeing life more as it is, not as you are. And it just happens to be a feeling of peace and serenity and love for me. That's all I can say for me. And I know that when I'm seeing life clearly, I know that there is the separation between myself and you or anybody else dissolves, and there isn't a separation. We're just all the same being with lots of different eyes. And when we're in that state, we're more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Because you're not imagining anything, you're just in it. Because we're all made of the same stuff, and it's like I was reading a book by David Brom, who's a prodigy of Einstein, and it's not really known so much in the media now, but if you really look into the new physical laws of the universe and quantum physics, the human idea of separation from one another and from everything else is an illusion. I mean, even Einstein said that time, space and matter is an illusion, albeit a stubbornly persistent one. And I think with this, when you have less on your mind, your natural propensity or your default is to fall into that. And when you're in that, you can pretty much do anything you want. Be anyone, go anywhere, do anything, because you have literally the power of the universe behind you. Because you are the power of the universe. And for me, the clearer I'm seeing, the more love I have within my own heart, and the less I see a difference between myself and anybody else. And then the less I'm seeing life clearly, the more the illusion of separateness becomes real. And the more competitive I get, or the more lack-minded I become, or the more I need to protect something. And the clearer I'm seeing it, I don't need to protect anything. I can just cooperate with everybody. There is no me to protect, it's just us. And we're all part of the same heartbeat of the universe. We're all of the same pulse of that. And seeing life clearly is you're just in love, impersonally.
Like, we've been around this, I think about 8 years now, and probably the first 3 or 4 years I still was looking for the doing in it. I wanted there to be something that I could do to have a better experience more of the time, and I thought that was the idea of the principles. I thought that's what I was trying to do. I thought that's what the principles was about. And really now I'm seeing that it isn't about any of that. It's simply an understanding, showing us how our experience works. And what seems to happen is that the more we understand that, we do have more peace of mind and we are more present. But they're not things that we've done. They're things that kind of reveal to us the more we understand, the more that we see and the more open that we are.
It's like a byproduct of photosynthesis is oxygen. It's like the plants are just getting sunlight and using nutrients in the soil to survive, but they just happen to release oxygen at the same time. And the byproduct of understanding how we experience the nature of our lives just happens to be serenity and peace and creative thinking and well-being and health. But this isn't about like being happy. It's not about having a calm mind. It's not about any of that stuff. Although again, it looks like it is, or it's marketed like it is. It's really just understanding how we work psychologically as human beings. And to put it really simply, to cut through everything, is when you see how it works, you have less on your mind. And with less on your personal mind, you're more in a bigger mind behind your mind, which gives you, again, look beyond my words, but intuition, creative thinking, clarity of mind, more information to draw upon. Just use whatever word that works for you. And that just happens, again, to improve your relationships and your finances and your work life and your colleagues. It just kind of has an effect, you know. Because we recently just put something on the movie site from Fox News. And they used this within a community in Charlotte in North Carolina in America. And like, the crime has dropped by 63%. School dropout rates has dropped by 50%. And pupils operating higher to their level or above their normal academic rate has increased by 75%.
For joining us, I'm Kirk Hawkins. That's the message. A Charlotte nonprofit is spreading. The Center for Sustainable Change began working with people in the Lakewood area of West Charlotte 4 years ago. Since then, violent crime has dropped dramatically. Charlotte-Mecklenburg police say the center's efforts have helped to reduce violent crime by 62% in the West Charlotte neighborhood that has historically suffered from high crime.
Now that's just one community, and again we've actually filmed loads of other communities where they've had very, very similar results as well, so go to the community section on the movie site to find out. But what's happened is in the news report they said positive thinking is helping the community, but it's not positive thinking, it's just people waking up to how they operate. And when you kind of see how it works, you just work better.
But again, up until last year, I think I still had the good thinking, bad thinking ideas, and that is what really dropped away from me. Is it's all thought. Like, of course there's things that we like to experience more, but I haven't got the judgment of thought anymore. I haven't got the separation of thought anymore. I see thought more as a principle, and that is so useful for me, because I think before having it separate was, again, creating a false separation, because it isn't separate, it's all thought, it's all coming from the same place. And then we've got this incredible ability, this incredible consciousness that makes it look real, and it will make anything look real. So I haven't got so much importance or labelling thoughts. Like, I haven't got to label where a thought is and whether it's good or bad. It's just thought, and it's coming through. And that's been really powerful for me in my understanding, because I think I got a bit hung up on wanting more of the good stuff. Whereas now, without having to try, I seem to be in more of a good feeling. And I think before, the pursuit is what took me away from that. Pursuing a good feeling or a nicer experience took me out of the moment. And in the moment is where the feelings are. Like, being present, that is where you fall into life and you experience love or compassion or just connection. And not having to label things is, again, just another thing to take off my mind. Oh, I haven't got to do that anymore. I haven't got to categorise my thinking. It's all thought, the end. So we've got, like I think you said last year, we've got more full stops in our life. Where it used to be, well, I feel good because I'm going to go away and da-da-da-da. And that's, I feel good, full stop. I don't even have to have the I feel good bit. You're just in life. So there's less labelling and just more showing up and being with people, which is just a relief. I think I kind of touched on it earlier, that the thought, feeling, connection has kind of gone more from my head into my heart, because I've just seen there's never an exception to that, and how much of the time I was not seeing my thinking, my outside-in thinking. I thought I was living very much from the inside out, and it was playing out in my life, but how much of my thinking was still kind of based on the outside world having an impact on me. So even in my language of, oh, but when you do that, it really annoys me. Like, how often have I said that and not seen it as, actually, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that thing is annoying me. So there is no exception to the thought, feeling, connection. That is always how it works. That is always how it is happening. And the deeper we experience that, not in our head, because it doesn't do anything for us in our head. Oh yeah, I'm feeling my thinking, yeah, what else? Move on. But it's this, keep coming back to that point, because it is such a profound point. There is so much depth to it that is so transformative and liberating, and the potential for it as all us as human beings is just so great. And it's something that, as we look to, it will unfold within us. There isn't a doing, there isn't, like, you haven't got to go away and start thinking, right, I'm thinking, okay, what am I feeling? Like, there isn't any of that. We haven't got to look at what we're experiencing, but understand that's a system working perfectly within us.
it's like, you know, when you're growing up, you first learn to ride a bike. You kind of eventually, after falling off quite a few times probably, you kind of get a feel for balance, and so you can cycle. This is kind of the same with the psychological cycling, so to speak, whereby you kind of get a feeling for how it works, and then when you're a kid and on your bike, you don't really have to think about balancing or think about gravity. You just naturally, you know, shift your body weight over, and you go around the corner. It's just like a natural thing. This works in the same way, as you kind of get a feeling for how the system's operating, and you don't really need to think about it anymore or analyse it or work out. It's just kind of the way it works, and you just go with the flow of that. That's kind of how it works, really. And what I found is there's a logic. I know this is another paradox, but there's a logic, an indisputable truth to how it works that you can totally grasp hold of that I've never really seen up until about a year ago.